Get ready. It's time. Christina, Catherine, Lisa, Amy, Lauren, and Danny. Welcome to the Cimorelli podcast.
Hey, I'm Christina.
I'm Catherine.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Danny.
And we're Cimorelli.
Welcome back to
The Cimorelli podcast.
Yay! All right, if it's your first time tuning in, then I gotta tell you what this is. The Cimorelli podcast is where we're gonna entertain you, uplift you, and share some advice that has changed our lives. We also share juicy stories, personal topics we discuss, and we get vulnerable and real with you guys. And it is a very entertaining podcast. So if you're trying to go to sleep, it's probably not the one for you. Although it might work. I don't know. Maybe it does.
It won't.
I wouldn't do that. Yeah. I wouldn't do that. But maybe you do.
The last episode made me tired, so.
So today, this is all about dating. Juicy.
D8.
Juicy alert. And we're going to go into a bunch of different topics about dating. It's going to be amazing. So prepare yourselves. And just so you know, every other episode is only available on Patreon. So half the episodes, YouTube. The other half, Patreon only. Yay. And Patreon also gets every single YouTube episode a week before. Woo. So if you go to Patreon, you get all the Cimorelli podcast episodes. And if you can't live without it, like many people out there,
me too,
you're going to want to go to Patreon. There's also way more than the podcast on Patreon. So head on over and become a patron. It is definitely worth it, or so I've heard. So, Kath, you want to start us off?
All right, we got our spicy advice question, and this is from our patron, Danielle B. What's up, Danielle?
What's up, Danielle?
The question is, how to deal with a guy ghosting you?
All right, let's go around from Lisa here. What do you do? If there's nothing, you don't have to say anything.
Okay. This happened to me. I talked to my brother about it, and I was like, what should I do? He talked to me every single day, a million times, and now he hasn't talked to me in 5 days. And he was like, Lisa, you can go back and forth of who's ignoring who, but we both know how this is going to end. And I was like, oh. And then I texted him after that, and I broke it off, and I came back. I was like, all right, I just ended it. And he's like, what? I didn't mean for you to do it that fast. I was like, well, I did it. But that was the best advice that I ever got, I think, where he's just like, you can play all these games, but you know it's going to end. And if they're already gone, what's the point chasing after them?
Wow. I would say don't make it about you if it's a problem with them. Like if someone's ghosting you and they're running away from you, it's not like you're ugly or dumb or annoying or something. I mean, maybe they might think that if they're ghosting you. Maybe. I'm saying it's a possibility. But I'm saying even if it was, that doesn't matter because it shouldn't turn into this thing of what did I do wrong and how can I be better and why don't they like me? Like don't make it this... Don't turn it into something where you beat yourself up for it because you can't control what people do.
Ghosting someone is doing something wrong. So if anyone did something wrong, they did something wrong. So you don't need to worry about what you did because they already did something.
I would say if you have the opportunity, then you should ask them.
Yeah.
Hey, why did you stop talking to me?
That's good.
Yes.
Communication.
I've done that in the past. So every time if it like starts to get weird, then I would just say like, hey, let's just be honest with each other. Like, is this over at this point? Just be honest with me. Give me the respect to be honest with me. I can take it. Let's hear it. And then it's like, okay, that's the truth. The end.
Let it go.
And just be honest and then be like, okay, time to move on.
Yeah, because then you're not just questioning forever.
Yeah.
I would say that if somebody has ghosted you, don't trick yourself that they're going to change. Because I did that so many times, and in my experience, it never changed. It was just this person coming and going. Just be with someone consistent so you don't have to worry about it. You shouldn't have to be with someone that's making you anxious all the time and making you question where you stand. You should never have to question where you stand with the person if it's a real connection.
Yeah. It's never a fluke, guys. Never.
Yeah.
I would have to say that been ghosted, done ghosting, but been ghosted. And literally this boy called me a few weeks later and I got a chance to put on my confrontational hat and I said, look, are you going to tell me, because he calls me and he starts talking like everything is normal. I'm like, are you going to tell me why you literally left and did not say one word to me? He's like, I was like, okay. It's like, yeah, that was not right. And I was like, yes, it was not right. why did, and then he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I was like, you could have, sent a little text, been like, oh, this is happening, but you did not, and that was not good. He's like, yeah, I'm really sorry. That was not okay. And I was like, good. So sometimes you put on your confrontational hat and you do that. And then I would say cry a lot. Don't hold the torch or whatever. Just let it go. And read Mars and Venus starting over.
It's good.
Because you've been broken up with, and that is okay.
Just remember, if someone wants to talk to you, they will. That's all you gotta know.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, what can I do?
They have a phone that they can use, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you're still awesome. If someone goes to you, it's not your fault.
You're still awesome.
You're awesome.
All right, we're going to jump into the topic of conversation, all about dating. We're going to start with mindset.
Woo!
So we'll do this age order. I'm the first one, Kat's second one, and then so on. So the first thing about your mindset for dating, get your mindset right or you're doomed, honestly. Get your mindset right. So I would say do not put yourself below the person. If you start out already being like, I'm down here and they're up there, everything you do is going to be weird. I guarantee you. So start off by saying, we are on the same level.
Both
We're equal human
humans.
beings. We're equal. It's all good. We are equal. I am not below this person. Kath?
I would say depending on where you're at in life, this can be a different answer, but you got to know what is your goal in dating someone. So if you're maybe younger, you don't really feel ready for marriage, maybe your goal is to get to know different types of people and see what personalities fit well with yours because you don't really know yet. And you don't want to be married to someone and be like, oh man, I never dated anyone else. I don't know what else is out there. So yeah, that's one area of it. But if you're older and you are looking for marriage and a committed relationship, then that's going to really change the way you date. Because if you're dating people with a bunch of red flags that you would never marry, you realize this is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, what's my goal? And that will inform all the decisions that you make in dating.
Very true.
True.
Ooh, I actually really relate to this one. Be open to the fact that you might not know what you actually need.
Oof.
Example for me is I always went for these kind of crazy tornado guys that are like, what? It's like a roller coaster ride with them. And I thought, oh, I can be their anchor. And one day I had to realize through meeting my boyfriend, he's so like steady and more, even though he's got a lot of energy, he's just more of a steady, regulated person. And I was like, wow, actually, I am more of the tornado and he's more of the anchor. And this is a much more complementary match than me trying to like be this thing for someone else that I actually need. But by getting to know different types of people, I learned that the slow but effective way.
I love that.
Amy?
Here's a great one. Be honest with yourself. Do not trick yourself. I love to do mental gymnastics. Give it up. Not a good sport, okay? And if there's something that you find yourself not wanting to tell a friend or, your good friend God about a guy or something, you're like, oh, trying to keep from people, bad sign. Be honest. Don't trick. That's all
Are
I'm
you saying
saying.
if you know something's wrong, don't
Yeah.
ignore it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't be like, it's fine. It's great. You trick yourself into thinking things are good when they're not.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I would say don't take it too seriously as far as in the beginning. Like, I always had an issue with feeling like trapped and like, oh no, I'm stuck in this thing. Like, before anything really happened, because I was like, oh my gosh, now I have to marry them. But it was like, you're just getting to know them. Like, it's just a date. It's just a couple dates. Like, don't think that it's more than it is.
Yeah. Another thing for your mindset, I would say, is don't just look for this romantic connection or like a fun, like, I don't know, maybe not fun. I don't know. Don't just look for this romantic thing. Think about, is this someone you actually want to hang out with and just do nothing with or go to the grocery store with
friends.
or, just be friends with. Like, don't just look for a person to be so in love with all the time. You just want to kiss them all the time. It's like, no, okay. Sometimes, actually, a lot of the time, you are not trying to do anything and you're just trying to hang out. You're just trying to be friends. So definitely think, would I be friends with this person? Would I want to hang out with them? Am I okay just sitting in a room, not talking, not complimenting each other, not being all mushy-gushy?
You're
Like,
so hot.
am I comfortable with this? Because if not, then might not be a good candidate for a relationship.
If you wouldn't even be friends with them, don't date them.
Yes, why?
Just
Why?
don't do it.
And I want to say in your mindset that this gets worse the older you get. Try not to be so picky about the person you're going to be with. Like, I know for me, and I'm saying this out of experience, I was very particular about all these things that I thought were like the perfect guy that I know that I'm meant to be with, blah, 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 blah. It's like, Like
Such
things
as
like
what?
things like okay, this isn't me, but like I've heard people say like I need like a really adventurous outdoorsy guy who's like a rock climber or something. Like honestly, maybe that would be great for you, but be open to the fact that
what
you
you need?
you don't know that. It might be a guy who is a little more business minded, but maybe he actually would love the outdoors. Like
Yeah.
people can be different than they appear, and I will tell you with my fiance Max when I met him, he was very different than any of the guys I'd ever dated. And I immediately felt it was very different. And it was just kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is like what I want. He's into sports. Like, what? Like, I don't know anything about anything about sports. How is this going to work? But there's so many more important things that we have in common of like our values and what we want out of life and like the way that we have a friendship and connect with each other that's so much deeper than sports and music. Like, be open. I remember one of my friends was like, he has to be able to be a musician like me. And I remember telling her like, well, maybe he won't be a musician and that's okay. Like maybe he can just admire your music. And isn't that what you want, is someone to support you in your music? So it could be different. Like it might be different than the package that you in your mind had.
Good.
So don't be picky about dumb, shallow
Superficial
things. Like, he must be over 5'10".
Oh,
That's
no,
not going to
never.
affect any hair color, eye color, skin color, height. Those don't affect
Fashion sense.
anything that has to do with your relationship at all.
Yeah.
So there are, however, some things you really need to be picky about.
Yeah.
And these are red flags. So I'm going to tell you the first one. I actually didn't learn this one until I got older and had friends who had failed marriages. This is like a really one that really helped me learn that was this guy is better than these guys, therefore he's good. So they only had these bad guys before, and then their current guy was better than them, so then they knew he was good. Turned out he wasn't that good, but he looked so good in comparison to the other guys. Big trick. Don't play them on yourself. Next one.
I would say instant chemistry is usually not actually a good thing.
Well, instant,
so
like overwhelming,
like when you meet someone
really
and you just
intense.
have this like crazy spark fire, like
God.
generally that's what people think in the movies is like a good sign. Generally, that's not actually a good sign from what I've seen. And for the most lasting relationships, it actually usually takes time for the chemistry to build. At one point, you might just realize I'm not attracted to this person. It's not going to change, but give it a chance to develop because it usually with good matches, it usually takes time for the chemistry to develop.
Yeah, that kind of ties into obsession. Which
Oh
I really experienced as a teen, especially an early teen. Wow. I look back and I was babysitting. What was the boy, Emmett at our like little youth group that I never spoke to and was 100,000% obsessed with. It's like my MySpace password was his name. And like I would be like, hand me the Emmett. I mean the bread. Like to a kid I was babysitting and I was like, oh my gosh, I could not stop thinking about this boy. And I was just like, I love him. And even, into my later teens and stuff, I would do this to other people. And I had to realize that is not a good sign. Just being obsessed with someone doesn't mean you love them. Oh, but it's love. It's like, no. You love them like you love ice cream, but that's not love in the good sense. So if you are obsessed with someone, I think it is actually a red flag that you may be idealizing them and making them into your fantasy person and you don't actually know them that well.
It's a no from me, dog. Okay. They jump in too quick and immediately want to know everything about you.
Ooh.
Add something, what's it called? Fake intimacy. When you meet someone and the first time you meet them, they're like, tell me your darkest thing. Like, tell me something really bad that happened to you. No. You got to start at an appropriate place and then you can get deeper from there. Okay.
That's actually a sign usually of someone who is generally like controlling and manipulative is they're trying to like force their way into closeness too quick. So
And
just
then
be wary.
You end up cutting off all your hair and in a rage.
So if you
forgetting
want
everything.
to keep your hair,
Love that.
Watch
a
out.
big red flag that I have seen is when you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them and you're like, oh, like I have to make sure I don't upset them or like hurt their feelings all the time just by like living or like doing what you want to do or saying what you want to say. If you feel like you have to like constantly edit yourself and overthink every single word you say, that's a red flag because you should both feel comfortable to just be yourselves around each other.
Yeah, kind of the same thing, but a little more specific is like when you're texting someone and they're having a conversation and you're like very obsessed with them. I had this many times in my teenage years, technically still in my teenage years, but when I was like 15. And you feel like you have to say the right thing or they're not going to respond. Like if you're not interesting enough or like funny enough or like clever or creative or whatever, like if you just say something that's too boring or just yourself maybe, then they're not going to respond like that. Or they don't respond. Like someone who literally doesn't respond unless it's like some like interesting thing and they don't just have like a mundane conversation with you. Pretty weird.
That
Bad.
ain't right. Amy, you take this one. I'll do the next one.
Oh, okay. This one is every time something in your relationship goes to the deeper level of like liking them. Like for instance, this one guy, the first time we ever like held hands or whatever, then he did not speak to me for the next day when we had plans for that day. He did not speak to me for a whole like 36 hours afterwards. That
So he
is not
ghosted your
okay.
plans.
He ghosted our plans
Oh.
and then he ghosted me later, Amy. It's not a fluke. Never a fluke. So there's an appropriate like space, taking the space to be like, ooh, do I want to be in a relationship with this person? Let's see. It's moving that direction. But every time it gets deeper, a little deeper, then they like
panic.
They just
ghost you,
disappear off the
they're
face
gonna
of the
ghost
earth.
you in the end, bro.
Red flag.
I'm just telling
Not
you.
good.
Okay, if someone is flaking on you all the time, so they can't keep their word, they're like, oh yeah, I'll call you later. And then they like don't call you later and it keeps happening. Not just one time, but it keeps happening like, oh yeah, let's hang out this weekend. Don't ask you to hang out. Make plans with you. Oh, I can't do them anymore. See you next time. Like they continuously
So weird.
flake on you. That is not very fun.
It's
Well,
probably
maybe
not-
maybe you think it is fun actually, but long term, that ain't good. So if they're gonna keep flaking on you, it's just gonna keep happening, and eventually you're just gonna get old. So that's not a good
Probably
sign.
not
Just
going to
gotta get some head and
change.
shoulders, wash them right out of your hair.
Yes, that's exactly what you need. Head on down to the local drugstore and get some Head and Shoulders.
I want to give an example. Kath, I'm going to steal yours. Going off of this, saying that if something starts out initially as weird, like a relationship or a friendship or whatever, it probably, chances are, it's not going to get better. Sometimes it does. There are exceptions. But for example, when I was like 16, then I started hanging out with this boy. And just like what Christina said, every time we made plans, he like would make them later or like he wouldn't respond until after or like he was just very odd the
Ugh,
day of.
sketchy.
And it was so weird. And I was like, it'll probably get better. Like maybe it'll be fine. But then it ended up to where like we only hung out at the very last minute and where I was like, ooh, finally I said the right thing. Or I caught him at the right time and now we can hang out.
I got the combination on the code.
Yeah, it didn't last. It didn't work. And so I just want to encourage you guys to not trick yourself into thinking that, it'll probably get better because they're probably won't.
Never a fluke, okay?
This one I have some wild experience with. It's a red flag if a person doesn't know how to respect the boundaries that you set. Even things like this guy.
And that
I always go
doesn't
back
have,
to him.
have to be physical. It
No,
can be
well,
other
for
things
an
too.
example, I would even me telling him like I visited him in LA and it's like, oh, I'm really tired from traveling. I want to go to bed early tonight. He would either ignore it or be like, oh yeah, sure, and then like take me out really late with all his friends and ignore it and make me stay up till like 4 a.m. I'm like, I'm really tired. I want to go to bed. And he's like, we're not leaving yet. It's just like it's basically everything he did is like, I don't care what you want or what you say. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Or when we broke up, I'd be like, stop calling me, and he would like keep calling me back. Like everything, just like no regard for your happiness or your safety or your health, and it's all just whatever I want to do. That is a horrible red flag, and you will end up cutting off all your hair.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So if you want to keep your hair, y'all.
The last red flag is being codependent, which is you can look that up online if you want a more
Very
deep
intense
definition.
term, yeah.
But it basically means that they are your life and they're the only source of happiness and you feel like you are one person with them. And kind of a few examples of this would be like you don't really have any other friends outside of your relationship, and I don't know, just kind of like you merge together and you would literally give up any other person who wants to hang out or talk to you or whatever to be with that person. You cancel on your friends. Like you kind of are just like making them the forefront of your existence, and it's very unhealthy.
All right, we're going to now tell you how to determine what you actually want. So we'll just each go down the line and read one of these points. Lisa, you want to start? And we'll go down the line.
This is what I said earlier. Know your personality, get to know yourself, and learn what complements you best. And I found that through getting to know other people.
Love that.
You gonna go?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought we were just doing age order. Okay. Find someone who brings out the best in you. Duh. You don't want to date someone who makes you the negative. I almost said wompy. That's definitely not a word. The negative, like, bleh version of yourself, or like a weird fake version of yourself, or like just someone who, when you're around them, makes you feel like something you're not, or just all the bad parts of you are coming out. Definitely want to be with someone who brings the best out of you.
If you notice, like, your life is in shambles,
Yeah.
your life has become in shambles. It's like, they bring out the best in me. They're bringing out the worst in you.
Yeah, another thing is think about what you value as a person and what you value in life, and look for someone who values similar things.
Here's something to keep in mind. If you keep thinking about how this person's going to look on your Instagram or to your friends, that's a sign that this is more of a shallow thing.
It's more for
and
you.
That thing's a ticking time bomb. So
Okay, now we're going to talk expectations versus reality, because we all kind of realized that before we got in relationships or we started dating, we realized we have these really unrealistic expectations that the media shoved down our throats from a very young age.
Yep.
we're
And
looking at you, romantic comedies.
Yeah, we are.
So we're trying to help change that.
Trying to
So,
combat those.
Danny, you got the first one?
All right. One thing that I thought was true in relationships is that you are just good all the time. Not like you as a person, because if you hate yourself a lot in your relationship, it's probably not good. But I'm saying, I used to think that when you're in a relationship, you don't ever fight, and once it's the right person, then you're just good and you're happy and it's just smooth sailing forever. But turns out,
Ain't true.
most people you date, even if they're right or wrong for you, whatever, you're probably gonna fight for the most part. I hope you do. Actually, I feel like it's kind of healthy. And there's balance, there is moderation, but I'm just saying, not gonna be happy all the time. It's not this like perfect starry-eyed, oh, I met him, I just fell in love, and it was that. That was it. That was history. It's like, no.
This is also what I kind of said earlier. I thought from the movies and stuff that falling in crazy, stupid love or like wild, intense infatuation on the very first time you meet someone is like a really good sign. Because in
That's
the
a sign.
movies, there it's always how it starts, and it's like, and now they're married. But that was the man that drove me to cut off all my hair.
Well,
So-
always
Always
comes
coming
back to
back.
that.
That is not a good sign.
Yeah, I'm looking at Hallmark movies where they get married after 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that was the expectation. And reality is, you meet your boyfriend, and you're kind of like, I don't know. And you sit on opposite ends of the couch, and you're like, oh, let's figure this out slowly. And then you're like, whoa, he's cool.
Yeah. I'm realizing lately, ever since being engaged and then watching rom-coms, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what people think a relationship is. This is horrendous. Like I was watching one the other day and it was like, the guy like swept her into this alley which that sounds really weird. But then, listen, and then it ended up opening to this garden. And there was a table set out with this beautiful meal and there was music playing and it was like, okay.
All right.
This guy, I don't know how he created a restaurant
I
in
don't know how
New
much
York
money
City
he had.
in some alley, but that is not realistic and it's not real life, and your relationship is not going to be one big adventure, and the guy's not going to be this like super smooth, charismatic guy who just always knows what to say and sweeps you off your feet. That is not real. And yeah, you're going to have some really fun adventures with your person. I hope they'll say things that make you super happy and bring you joy, but it's just not realistic to think they're going to be super charming and just take you on this wild adventure. That's just
And that is
No.
okay.
if you want that, go to like a water park, amusement park. That's not a relationship.
Because you also are not that. Like, the guy's not going to be that. You don't come out looking flawless with your hair blowing in the wind every time you're in you're half of the relationship. You're not that either. So don't expect him to be that perfect thing because you ain't either.
Yeah.
Guys,
And that's good. That's too much pressure.
I like to say our camera guy Sean just mouthed, I do. My hair's blowing in the wind.
It probably does.
This is actually something that I think people don't think about, and I definitely didn't think about this, was I thought that if you were in a relationship, you wouldn't be lonely
Oof.
ever again. But lonely is not something that just goes away because you're with someone, because lonely is more of like a you thing, and it's more like you could be lonely in a room full of people. Being in a relationship doesn't mean you'll never be lonely again.
Yeah, because being lonely is something you need to be connected. So you could be in a relationship with someone and you're not connected at the moment. You feel lonely. So it's like,
Yeah.
It's not
And it's not their job to take away your loneliness.
yeah.
So
Boundaries. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're going to do some first date tips. This is a lightning round of first date tips. Let's go.
Okay. Like we said earlier, I really emphasize this. Pay attention if you want to be friends with them or not. If you don't get along as friends, canceled.
Canceled.
Wear something that you're really comfortable in and something that expresses your personality, not something that you think they want you to wear what you want to wear that you feel comfortable in.
I would say pay attention to the vibe, okay? No matter how attractive they are, don't get caught up in their brown eyes or whatever. Think about how you feel, maybe the look in their brown eyes, because everyone has a look in their
Everyone
eyes.
always has blue eyes. I'm glad you said brown.
I love brown.
Anyway,
Anyway,
blue is not even that popular.
I'm just saying.
This is a lightning round.
Lightning round. Don't ignore the vibe. Vibes are real. If someone seems sketchy, they probably are. Okay?
Yeah. I would say journal the night before. Like if you have any feelings or like fears, just get it all out on paper and it'll help you calm yourself and get in a good mindset before the date.
Set a goal to just be yourself.
Yes.
Like, whatever you feel, like say what you want to say, wear what you want to wear, like be yourself. That should be your goal.
I'm sorry. I just have to add one lightning one. I forgot one that we didn't write down. I would say don't go into it thinking they are a prize that I need to win. Like, I need to win them over. How can I go into this date and get them to like me? Do not think that. Go in thinking, do I like this person? Is this a good match? Et cetera, not how can I be better?
Yeah, that's a very true one. And the last one that I have is actually the title of a book, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So if you're like, I'm scared to go on this date for no good reason, like he seems like a nice guy, I'm just scared, then just like give yourself a little pep talk and be like, I can do this. I'm going to be scared, but I'm going to put myself out there and be brave. Just get yourself to do it. All right, now something I'm very passionate about. Setting and stating your boundaries.
Ooh.
Everyone has boundaries. Physical, emotional. Are there any types of boundaries?
Is there a mental boundary? I don't know.
Everyone's got plenty of boundaries out there, but oftentimes we let people step on them and we step on others. Both disrespectful things. Oftentimes not on purpose, but it happens. So my first tip for this is, which is something that I always did, which I learned really quickly, was tell them early and never be ashamed of yourself for having boundaries. Never be ashamed. So boundaries can be a simple thing like, I'm really tired, I'm going to bed now. And they're like, no, stay up and talk to me, whatever. And you're like, no, really, I'm going to bed. Okay, good night. Or they're like, no, stay up and talk. And they like get mad at you. They're like, wow, if you hadn't gone to bed, I could have talked to you and maybe I would have had a better day. I don't know. Weird stuff like that.
Ugh, gross.
At that point, you're just like, sorry, it's not my responsibility to make you happy 24/7. I had to sleep and my responsibility is taking care of myself. Physically, you have physical boundaries. Everyone does. They're like, on a first date, this is what I believe. On a this date, this is what I believe. This is what I believe for my life, whatever it is. So immediately, like as soon as I met a guy, I would always ask him, like on a date, I'd ask him about himself and I'd be like, oh yeah, are you religious? Oh yeah, I'm Catholic. I'm really strong Catholic and I'm waiting till marriage. I would say that right in the beginning. I'd never experienced an awkward moment and I would never, ever, 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 ever let any man or woman, anyone could have, actually a lot of people have tried to shame me in my life, but I would never let anyone make me feel ashamed for having a boundary that I felt passionate about, that I believed in, that I was going to follow through with. So and that's the thing we get the most messages about. I see all these girls sending messages and they're like, how do I say this? I'm scared he's going to think I'm a loser. No. Whoa. First of all, if he thinks you're a loser, that is such a loser move on his part. But second of all, I actually never experienced that. I never had, guys, I went on dates with some really attractive guys, okay? Not one of them shamed me for that. Not one of them was like, ew, you're waiting till marriage. They were like, wow, okay? And there's a few guys in my life who were kind of crappy about it, but it was actually just because they didn't want me to have that standard for their own purposes.
Oh,
okay.
Sketchy.
Selfish.
So that's what I have to say on that one.
This kind of goes with it. Definitely pay attention to how people react when you put out your boundaries, because it's one thing to say it, but if you say it and someone's like, oh, why? Or like they're not even necessarily shaming you or being like, oh, that's horrible. Or like, okay, that sucks.
Unsupportive.
It's like this weird vibe where you just know they don't like it.
They're trying to make you feel weird.
Yeah.
Like,
or if you're like, hey, I don't like when you talk about that. Like, that's kind of a boundary. Or I don't like when you say
That
this.
is a boundary.
Then they could say, well, why? Like, in a weird way. You could be like, oh, why? But you can be like, well, why? Like, I think that's weird. Yeah, it's like a weird thing. So if someone responds to your boundaries in a weird way, I
Bad
hate it.
sign.
Please don't let that person continue doing that because it's not good.
Yeah.
And also, on the other side of the coin, maybe they respond perfectly when you first tell them
Like,
about
"Oh,
your
yeah.
boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
But I always say actions speak louder than words. And this has actually not happened to me personally, but many of my friends have shared this with me that they share their boundaries with a guy early on and he pretended to be okay with it. And then later on, time, things get harder as you get closer. And he showed his true colors by pressuring them into things they didn't want to do. Immediate red flag, immediate abort mission, get out of there. Don't let it, even if they said in the beginning that they were okay with it, if they're not okay with it later, nope, they were not being honest. Move
wrong.
on. There's plenty of people out there who will respect your boundaries. Go find one of them.
Also, live in a way that aligns with your boundaries. So if you're saying, I don't want to do this thing, but you're kind of encouraging it, or you're like kind of questioning, oh, maybe, or you're like, I don't know, if you show that you are not like stable in your boundaries, not saying that anyone should cross them, not saying that, but it's kind of hard to expect another person to believe that and respect it if you're not showing it in a very solid way. So if you're like, I don't like when you talk to me that way, but you talk to them that way,
Or
it's
you
like,
keep letting it happen. You're like,
yeah, or you keep letting it happen. It's like people aren't going to respect you if you don't respect yourself and keep your boundaries solid, So maybe if you are not being solid, you should probably figure out why that is your boundary and be firm in it. Figure that out why.
And also, if you don't know what your boundaries are,
Figure
get a
it out.
pen, get a paper,
Write it down.
make a list.
Think about it. Yeah. Okay. That's good on boundaries. I know that's a touchy subject, so probably some of you guys are offended, but it's okay. You can be offended. But I just want you to know that I don't want you to ever let anyone make you feel ashamed. I never, ever want that. So I just want to put that out there. Okay. So how to talk through an issue, conflict communication. Alrighty. So conflict is something that some people hate with a passion. And it's really scary for them.
Me.
And then others like to dive into. And for me, my biggest issue with conflict was sometimes I come on too strong and I'll be like too aggressive about it. So I learned that journaling through it or talking to someone about it before I actually go to my significant other about it is very helpful, because then I can like clear my mind and like figure out what my thoughts actually are. Sometimes I'll just start talking and it's like, wait a minute, that's not even what I think. So I highly suggest journaling or talking to someone about something big before you have to go do a conflict communication, a conflict resolution meeting with someone. You have a disagreement, you have something that's on your heart. Journal through it, collect your thoughts before you go, and that generally helps a lot.
And I would add to that, talk to some friends and like especially mentors, people that you look up to first, and get their perspectives. I like to do that a lot before, especially for like a big issue or a big conversation. Just be like, hey, this is what happened. This is how I felt. Like, what's your take on this? And just see, because sometimes, like I said in another episode, things can get twisted up in your head. So it's good to talk to someone else and kind of see, am I being kind of out of line here, or are they being out of line here?
Yeah, and for me, as someone who is naturally very conflict averse, then when I do like take the brave step to like bring something up and communicate, like the last thing I want is to be misunderstood. So instead of focusing on expressing what I'm feeling, I focus on accurately communicating to the other person how I'm feeling. So you can express all day, but if the other person isn't understanding what you're saying, it's not really going to work.
Can you give an example?
So, like, for instance,
I can say one. Like, if you're like, oh, you just made me feel so bad, blah, blah. And you're saying all these things of like, you made me feel this and I felt like this and I'm feeling this, like feeling, versus when you said this, it made me think this, and this is what the actual problem was, and this is why I took it that way. You're more like explaining.
Like, I don't like it when you talk to me in that harsh tone.
So that they can actually have some useful information to correct it in the future.
Yeah,
instead of just,
You're
you
so
made me
mean.
feel bad.
I feel like I'm dating the meanest person in the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you don't care about me. It's like, okay, when you did this thing, it made me feel like you didn't care about me.
Yeah.
Care to
Could you
explain?
try this instead?
There you go.
Care to change or explain or both? Much better.
My tip for conflict resolution that I've learned in my relationship is I set a thing for myself early on. I was like, every time there's any kind of a problem where I'm feeling hurt or sad or, frustrated, I have to say it right away, because my old tendency was just keep everything inside and like let it build up and then like explode later. But now I'm always just, as soon as something happens, I just cry about it. Or I say like, hey, that was mean. Or like, that hurt my feelings. Or like, did you mean this when you said that? Because I felt really weird about that. And every time I just get it out right away, there's none of these like built up problems over time that we have to sort through. And he's really good at working things out right away too. So he sets a good example for me and I just follow that. But yeah, fixing them in the moment saves you so much time in the future.
Okay, so to sum up conflict communication, because I know this is one of the most difficult parts of many people's entire lives. Summary of that is you have some kind of problem. So let's say the problem is when your significant other looks at you like this, you start thinking he thinks you're a complete idiot and it hurts your feelings. And you're sick of how he keeps doing that face to you. Okay, so so this is what you should do. You journal it out. You figure you're like, I'm really upset about this, blah, blah, blah. You get to the bottom of it and you're like, I'm going to talk to him about this. So you go to him and you say, you mention it. Hey, so when you look at me like that, then it makes me feel like you think I'm really dumb and like you don't care about me. But I was thinking that in my head and I don't know if it's actually what you are thinking. So would you talk to me about whether that's true or not? And then he tells you like, no, I don't think you're dumb and I do care about you.
He said, I was actually just thinking about pork chops.
Or it could be an argument that he does that face. He's like, that's just how my face when I'm like feeling offended or like I'm thinking about something deeply, but I don't think you're dumb and I do care about you. And then you say, okay, that's great to know. Do you think you could try when we're having these moments and you're doing that face, could you try to like become aware of it and like
Start holding up a
be
mirror.
a little bit nicer? Be a little nicer. Like if he's like glaring, like sometimes I would do that. I'd be like, I could do this face or I could be like, okay, if Nick is telling me a problem, I could be like this. Or I could be like, okay. We have control of our face. So see the problem? You see how that works? You say what it is. You say what you were thinking about it. Ask for clarification in a kind and open way. And then tell them what you would really need to rectify the situation in a calm way because you've just gotten all your feelings out, maybe gone and screamed somewhere else and written everything down. And now you don't have to scream at them. You can just tell them the actual substance of the problem. That's conflict communication. And then if they respond by saying, you're an idiot, it's all in your head, you idiot, you got a problem.
Then they get a one-way ticket to breakup.
Then you break up, which brings me to breakups. We are not talking about breakups today because we did an entire episode on breakups some episodes back in this season 2 of the Cimorelli podcast. So go check that out if it is available on YouTube, which I don't know if it is.
It's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Good, because half of these episodes are only on Patreon. So good to know it is. All right, that was all we could squish into this time about dating, but we do have a lot more. So if there's more you want to hear about, leave it in the comments because we do read the comments and we get ideas from the comments for future episodes. So leave us your ideas in the comments. Now we're going to move on to Sister Spotlight, where we spotlight one sister every single week. These different segments include Lauren's Take, Get Real with Christina, Sappy Thoughts with Kath, Amy's Current Crisis, Exposing Lisa's Past, and Danny's Love-Hate List. And this week, the Sister Spotlight is... Ding! Lauren's Take. Wow. She's the most quiet gal, but she has a lot of opinions. Let's hear it, Lauren.
I do.
All right. I was trying to do that like we were at a beauty pageant or whatever, and I was announcing you.
That's good.
All right. All of these questions come from our patrons. Join Patreon today. The first question's from Amelia, and she says, how has growing up in a big family changed your view on things?
I'm seeing an inherent flaw in this question because I don't think it changed anything because I always had it.
I think what she means is like compared with
how did it
do you
affect
see like
it?
a difference between people who have grown up in small families with the way you think? I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I think the biggest effects that it had on me, especially as an introvert, is it made me a lot more, I don't know what the word is, but able to handle a lot of people, a lot of different personalities, a lot of situations.
Adaptable.
And yes, it made me very adaptable and also gave me a really good understanding of like how people are so different and there's so many different types and like personalities, I guess.
All right.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to do while relaxing or having a lazy day? From Caitlin.
Favorite versus best is a little different. I'd say my favorite way is just watching TV, but I think the most actual soul quenching
Nourishing.
thing would be I like to skateboard. Well, like longboard, just kind of like cruise around the streets, you know. That's a good relaxation. And just taking like a bath. It's good.
Wow.
All right, from Zay. How to be less jealous, especially when it comes to guys.
What?
They're like, I hate how that guy's wearing Vans.
I don't really know. I think you need to think about why why you think your man is going to leave you so quick for someone else.
Which could be valid.
Because it might be a problem with him, but also it might just be you thinking you're not good enough. So maybe I would look inside myself and be like, why do I feel like I'm not good enough to keep a man? You know?
Yeah.
Maybe work through that.
Love that.
All right, speaking of men, Chloe asks, single or taken?
I am single. I know, shocking, but true.
What does that mean? Everything.
Gotta go.
Okay, this next name I'm not going to try to pronounce. I feel like Danny could. It's
Let me see it.
Niamh.
Neum. The
Neum?
H is probably silent.
Neum. Okay.
Nice.
Hey. Their question is, best artist you've seen perform live?
Taylor Swift.
Danny, this
I
is
was
not
trying-
your
I was trying to
take.
guess.
I'm going blank.
Are you really going blank?
21 Pilots, Taylor Swift.
It's gotta be one of
I
those three,
think
right?
I have to say Taylor.
Thank you.
Because it was just really an experience for me. Felt a lot of feelings, a roller coaster, a lot of pyrotechnics. Really had it all.
I love you, Laura. All right.
Had it all.
Marissa asks, which sister do you think you look the most like?
Lisa, definitely Amy. I think they're
Thank you.
similar in height. Lisa, I guess, but I don't think we look that much alike, honestly. But I guess I look a lot like her.
Yeah, but when Lisa had long, dark hair like you, then people thought you guys were
I
twins.
know. I said I don't think.
Well, I'm just
I
saying.
know what other
The
people
proof is in the pudding. Okay.
think. Is it?
No, it's not.
All right. Last question comes from Jeremy. And he says, do you have any goals before you turn 21? Whoa, which is in like a month, right?
It's in like 3 weeks.
No, that's
Yeah.
really soon.
And probably
Oh.
when
2
this
weeks.
episode's out, I'll already be.
You'll already be 21.
21.
I don't have goals before that. I don't usually do goals that are like end on August 12th. I do more like year goals or like 5-year, 10-year kind of thing. So
Wow.
I don't.
She's like, I'm not dumb.
But thank you for the question.
All right. That's all we got for Lauren.
Wow.
All right, you guys.
Good.
Thank you so much for watching. That was Lauren's take. In our next episode, which is Patreon only,
Uh-oh.
we're talking about how to do a life reset. And we have Exposing Lisa with apparently a shocking journal entry. She's been waiting to tell us, and I've been waiting to hear.
E3.
The journal entry is from July 15th, 2008. The day before, I saw the Jonas Brothers in
no.
concert.
Oh, no.
Their second time.
I think I still have my receipt from my dinner that night. Because
That's
we went to
weird.
the same concert.
And you said it's
I thought it was
utterly
so
shocking?
cool.
It's utterly shocking. And you cannot miss it.
You can't prepare. She told me you
I'm
can't
excited.
prepare for it. You can't guess
prepare-
what it is.
Just because it's so out of left field. So I don't want to
case-
overhype it, but you'll be left in shock and,
Disarray.
Yeah.
Trying to pick up the pieces.
If you missed it, Lisa was madly in love with Nick Jonas and thought she was going to marry him. So I assume it's something along those lines.
you just won't be
That's
able
what
to
I'm
guess.
saying. But if you
And
want to know,
if you missed it, she is extremely weird.
and dramatic.
I don't know if you
And
knew.
was.
The segment is really supposed to be called Exposing Lisa's Weird Past. Okay? So that's all I'm
That's
going to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's on the Patreon only episode, which is the next one. If you join Patreon, you'll get all the past Patreon only episodes that you missed, right?
Yep.
You'll be able to go back and see all of those on Patreon because we have 10 episodes in season 2 are only on Patreon. The other 10 are on YouTube. And when you join Patreon, you also get the YouTube episodes a week early. And you get so much more than just our Patreon. There's a ton of cool content from us that's only on Patreon. So you're definitely going to want to join that. All right, we'll see you next time. I cannot wait for that episode. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Cimorelli podcast. Follow Cimorelli on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find Cimorelli on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat.
Did you ever consider becoming a nun before you met Nick?
I did consider becoming a nun.
What's up? My name is Lisa, and I'm here today to answer your questions. I'm going to take my socks off because I'm getting really overheated. I don't think I can answer this question because I live under a rock. If I racked my brain, I'd probably think of something, but I don't know. What are the 2019 trends? I can't think of anything. I'm sorry.
Oh my! Tomorrow is July 16th. I am in quite a panic because I do not know what I am to wear tomorrow. Tomorrow is, or may very well be, one of the most important days of my life. Who knows? We will very well have to wait and see.